Non-public comments. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the council at this time? Seeing no one coming to the podium, council, any changes or additions to the agenda?
Yeah, I wondered, can we get a report, since we're not gonna meet until after September 30th, can we get a report on where we're at with the marina negotiations?
Certainly.
When it comes to committee reports, if you want.
Yeah.
And also, Chad, could you just give a brief update on where we're at with the barge terminal thing? Thank you.
Okay, Craig, I'm gonna add yours to 10.4 and 10.5.
Okay.
Help me remember.
Or committee reports, Mayor? Do you want to do them through that?
I'd be open to that too.
Yeah, otherwise they'd have to officially be voted on and added.
All right, mayor's presentation, excuse me. Motion to approve the agenda as modified.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed unanimously. Okay, mayor's presentation. If you're around town, again, we're going to see Septoberfest coming alive wherever I go to mayor meetings and mention from Wabasha. It always seems that people are talking about or asking about Septoberfest, and Carolyn and your crew, nice job, and we're looking forward to a beautiful 2018 fall. Committee reports. John, would you like to start?
Certainly. Port Authority met Tuesday, August 21st, 7 p.m., third Tuesday of the month. General business, we had a few items. We had JPN Ventures, which is a gentleman that buys and reconditions cars, high-end cars, and ships them overseas. He owns a building in the industrial park, and he was looking for a request for funding for some work on that building to continue to improve that operation. We did, the Port Authority did approve it with some additional conditions, and I believe he's still considering those conditions.
Nope, he just accepted them.
He's accepted those conditions. Oh, fantastic.
Yep, and everything's signed and delivered.
Very good, very good. So that's very good. We touched base on the riverfront resurgent bonding. There's really not much to report at this time. We're still organizing and getting that kind of set up between the National Legal Center, city staff. Chad, you might have something more to mention on that, but I think we're pretty status quo right now. We heard about the transfer building on 2nd Street. We're looking to get some estimates on some repairs to that building to see what value it might be at a repaired level for either use with the chamber or something like that. And that was about it. Marina lease, I know that I was not in attendance today, but the committee did meet with the owners of the marina today. We're back and forth a little bit on terms and conditions. I think each party has quite a bit of homework to do yet on some of the opportunities that we might have with them. I don't know, Jeff, if you, I know there's kind of vague, guys, but we're still right in the middle of it. So.
Nothing's signed yet, though.
Nothing's, no.
Okay.
Nothing will be signed by that group. It has to all come here.
It'll come from here. We did receive, and the $10,000 is in the bank.
Oh, okay,
So,
it is.
yeah.
Oh, good, it's good news.
So we're moving, it's just there's a lot of back and forth.
Anything to add, Jeff?
Nope, that's about it.
Okay, Brian?
Utilities met today, pretty much business as usual. Two things of note, since we switched our sanitary department back to the city. We now have 2 employees who just got their Class D certification in sewer and water. That's in addition to Pat. And they're going to be working towards the B level, which is where Pat's at. And that's where we need people to be at. If someone goes down, then we have backups. So that was good to hear. The other thing, City Council, a couple meetings back, voted to assess an unpaid water bill to taxes for the ski hill, but happy to report it's not necessary. They were able to pay the bill. So that's no longer an issue.
Very good.
That was it.
Good, thank you. Craig?
The planning commission met August 15th. We had a public hearing for the Gherkins property there. They wanted to put in a couple more bins in there, a drying bin and a wet storage bin. And the wet storage bin will be 100 feet high in that neighborhood as the old one, although it will only be 27 feet in diameter, so it won't be nearly as large. And then they're going to take down their old drying bins and then replace them with these new ones, 2 new ones, and then the third wet storage bin. So they've been there for 100-some years, so it's zoned general commercial, so it meets all the requirements there. So that was passed. It was some stipulations on it that no construction would be on Sunday, and construction on Saturday wouldn't start until after 10 a.m. and then construction wouldn't start till after 8 a.m. Monday through Friday. So we also are continuing to monitor the Solar Stone solar farm out there on County Road 30, because the fencing was supposed to be covered with ivy all the way around it, and it's been a couple years, and there's a few strands of ivy out there, but not many. So the planner is working with NRG of Texas to try and get that fixed. Our next meeting is going to be September 11th at 6 o'clock.
All right. Questions? Dean, anything?
Nothing.
Steve?
No.
Moving on to Mr. Tony, excuse me.
Street Commission did not meet today. They did not have a quorum, so everything pretty much got pushed till next month. The Park Board met, I believe it was the 15th last month, and we had, Dylan and I had attended training several months ago through the league, and it was about handicap accessibility in our parks. And so they outlined some new things that are coming out, some new requirements. And I had a league rep actually come down and go through 3 parks with me. And we outlined some different things in the playgrounds for them to play with, some paths that lead to the shelters. So we're going to be actually going back into our future park plan and adding an ADA section to each park. And we have to outline our improvements that we are, at least our goal, to start funding some of these. So we'll probably work on a couple for next year, kind of start picking away at that stuff. So we're holding up the future park plan for everyone until we can go back and update them and get them caught up, and then most likely this fall we'll start working on that again. Also, there's a group that I am helping with. They're looking at creating more bike-friendly paths and ways to bike around Wabasha more and try to get more people to our community. And one project that we are working on through the SHIP program is a bike loan program. And most of us kind of know that the last program didn't work very well because we had the bikes. I think David Schmidt got the bikes, but we didn't have, staff wasn't going to come in on the weekends and get the bikes out of storage, you know, and give them to people that wanted to use them. So this new system, it's been operating in different areas. We can get this paid for 100% through a grant. It consists of 6 bikes. It's a docking station. The box are locked up until you sign in with an app, and it'll release the lock. You're responsible for the bike. There's a credit card thing attached to your, you know, the app where you can get charged if something gets wrecked or not brought back. It's kind of on its own system without us having to babysit it. So we're looking at possibly applying for that through the county. And so that's kind of some good news. And I gave them a projects update from Public Works. The Malone Fishing Dock is done, completed, back in the water. New signs with the pet waste signs and bags are up in all the parks. So the bags for the pet waste are there. Heritage Park trees are planted, some new trees down there. The brick wall is being repaired by Sorensen Concrete Restoration. That's from the Doffing Fund is paying for that repair. And also the clock is fixed. We bought a part for $600. The guys took the clock apart, put it in, everything's working, music's working, everybody's happy, and the Doffing's paid for that out of the Doffing Fund, clock repair fund. And Beach Park sign is up, been replaced. Ike's Park brush removal around the flag has been done. I'm still working on transfer building repairs. Other than that, on the street side, we're gonna be replacing LED lights down on Main Street tomorrow, Thursday, see what the weather brings. So we'll be down there working. We got the globes washed, all the light assemblies loosened, so they're ready to go. If you see us down there, that's what we're finally getting that done. So.
Tony, any news on the holiday decorations downtown?
Yeah, we did get the banners up. We're gonna put flags up by Friday, the German flags, and then the Christmas decorations have came in. I haven't went through them yet, but we got a lot of boxes up there. The banners are in. I know there's the pole wraps and some other stuff that have come in, so. Yep, we're in, the street signs are selling, the banners are selling, so we'll just keep picking away at that.
Good.
Yep.
Any questions? Thank you, Tony. Chad?
Just to let you know that, that call I just got was Darren. They're gonna be out looking at problem areas with this rain and all that's coming down. For those of you that haven't signed up for Code Red, there's a link on our website to do that. I would suggest going out there, as there's news that needs to be shared. That's one of the quickest outlets for us to get it out. So, if you're having problems with that, just call City Hall and we will help you with that. Tony and I have been working with the county. Every year we get a certain amount from them for the mileage that we take care of in town here. So we're scrubbing through that number this year. It decreased a little bit, which we're trying to understand as our costs for winter snow removal have went up. How can that contract that they're proposing go down? So we're looking at that. As John said, we are continuing to have several group meetings with the Eagle Center and members of city staff, including planning, legal. There's just a lot of I's to dot and T's to cross for the bonding money. Who's the agent, what needs to be bid, what doesn't, all those types of things. So we're working through that step by step as we go. Several meetings ago, a personnel committee was formed. The members of the council, that's Mr. Woodley, Mr. Hall, or Mayor Hall, and Councilperson Friedmeier. They had one meeting prior to having staff, and now we had a second meeting 2 weeks ago about agreed upon roles, and we'll be bringing that stuff back to council and then ultimately to staff, because that's where it affects that. So we had the first meeting with our police union reps last week. Jane Glander from the Police Commission sat in on that one, and Jeff has since agreed to become a part of those discussions going forward. So we received a list of the asks, and we'll be reviewing them and responding to them within, I think our next meeting is out of several weeks yet. So, but we're, in the meantime, get with council and legal counsel, that is, and the members of that group, and go through those requests at that time. Other than that, after tonight, we'll be really looking at the budget. Again, tonight is setting the high side of our levy. It can't go higher, it can only go lower. And every year, we sometimes, we have that number up there, so we have, in case some incidentals come in that we're not planning. And now we'll go back through with a fine tooth comb and go through the revenues and the expenses and those types of things all before December, so. That's what I got.
Okay, any questions for Chad?
Finally, there was a letter to the editor from the Ikes Group, Isaac Walton League, requesting information or asking several questions of the city for and the Port Authority. It was actually addressed to the Port Authority, what we received here, on the negotiations with the Army Corps. We had some discussion at the Port Authority, and it was decided that the response will be, at a minimum, will be myself giving an update at these meetings on where we're at. Obviously, some information we don't have answers to yet. Some of the questions in that article we don't have answers to yet, and that's the permitting process and the other approvals and all the entire structure of that idea on that port. We don't have the answers for yet. We're working through that as we go. I will tell you where we're at with the discussions right now is the Corps has presented an option to us, which we originally had submitted to the Corps in a previous letter going back to last year, and that was the use of what is known in the old dredge management plan as Wabasha Sand and Gravel High School site, which is located out here, kind of across from and a little bit to the east of the high school on this side of County 30. We are continuing to evaluate an additional plan that we think right now better serves the community, and that is the utilization of the port up on the west side. We've had discussions, I have had conversations with Mr. Crowley at the hospital about the impact. There is a lot of control that the city will have with that land through the zoning process, and what can and what cannot be taken across the port if that's the way we go. Our group is actually working on what I would call a very high-level proposal to the Corps, utilizing that, and at the very same time, we are planning to schedule a public meeting to present that plan to the public and take any questions that they may have. So that's another way that we're looking to keep the communication going, and that'll help for the public to be able to ask questions, and we'll answer what we can. Like I said before, some stuff we don't have the answer to.
I did talk to the president of the Isaac Walton League, who was the woman, Jen Walls, that spoke here the other night, and said, if you really are interested, why don't you ask someone from the city to come and speak to your group in an informal setting, that, you know, and that might be a good way to exchange ideas, and so they were going to think about it.
Sure. I've done that for other groups that have asked for this very topic, so. But we'll continue down the road of giving updates here. Watch for, we will obviously publish an article on when that public meeting will be. I'm expecting our letter to maybe be ready in a couple weeks from where we're at today, and then we'll go from there. I think the Corps still kind of has the release of the second draft of the management plan on queue for this year yet. Not exactly the fall period that they were looking for, probably closer to December.
Yeah.
From what they're looking at, but it's on track, and there will be ample dialogue before that plan even comes out, as that's kind of what this whole program and project has led to, so.
Is that satisfactory, Craig?
I think Chad's doing a wonderful job on this.
And Chad, I think one thing too to mention is that as with the last plan, there will be a public comment period.
Absolutely, yep.
And that's really important, so everything that comes out is still subject to public comment for a period of time. And last time it got extended 3 times?
Oh, more than that.
Yeah, so a number of times, and,
Yep.
so, there'll be ample time for everyone to review it and comment.
Any other questions for Chad? If not, we'll move on to item number 8, which is the consent agenda, which tonight includes approving the August 7th regular minutes, renewing the City Hall cleaning contract with Wabasha County DAC, Public Works recognitions and salary requests, and the warrants. Motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. I'd like to back up just for a second and recognize Ryan Flack, who obtained his Class D sewer license, and I think that for our city employees to improve their personal personal development, rather, they should be recognized. So, Ryan, nice going. Public hearing, I have none. Moving into general business, item 10.1 is to approve the 2019 preliminary budget levy. Call for a public hearing for December 4th, 2018. And let's talk just a minute about that particular meeting, because sometimes folks, our good citizens, come thinking that they can adjust their tax liability, and that's totally not for that. So maybe we can make it clear, Chad, what that meeting is for and how it can be beneficial to the citizen and to us.
The public hearing for that is actually to discuss the budget as it is presented. If you have a concern over an expense or a revenue item or any question on that stuff, we'd prefer that it was handled before that, but that is your time to voice any concerns on the city budget as a whole. If you have a concern about your tax value on your property, that meeting comes in April. And that would be actually, that meeting is in April of 2019 for your taxes in 2020. So once, we've already went through the process this year such that your tax value on your property is already set for 2019. So, yeah, the December 2019 budget meeting is to discuss the budget, the revenues and expenses that are in the general fund, the library fund, the Port Authority, and then our 2013 debt service that we levy for.
And I'll second what you said. Certainly our citizens can come to you to sue before December and say, hey, we need a little more here, a little less there, at least give their input, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, so Chad, let's get on to the 2019 preliminary budget levy then.
Okay, what you have in front of you is 3 pages, and then including the resolution. The 3 pages are the revenues, a summary page of revenues and expenses and levy impact, and then the 3rd page is by expenses, department by expenses from 2015 all the way through 2018. We met approximately 2 weeks ago. Staff and the council met for the better part of 3.5 to 4 hours discussing the draft budget and going through, by department, a presentation on what things were increasing, what things were staying the same, what additional requests that the department heads had of the council. We do that to get a good first draft that we bring forward here tonight. One major point that was agreed to by the council was to, at a start, fund the 2019 budget with $100,000 in reserves. If you remember our discussion from last year, the city has been fiscally responsible over the last several years, 5+ years, and has been able to accumulate a deficit that we are using to help smooth over any tax increases over the years. That being said, we also had a big challenge this year where our insurance was one of our major driving pieces of the increase in the levy. We experienced a near 30% increase in insurance costs. For a dollar amount, that's close to $65,000. Over 18 of us that take insurance, 12 take family and 6 take single. So that is a significant increase. We did build into that increase an increased premium for city staff to continue to pay more than what they paid last year. In addition, we put in a 2% cost of living, a 2% step per our salary schedules. Overall, the salary decreased by close to $15,000, and the major driver in that was a restructuring in the ambulance from previous year, when we had some full-time staff and some part-time staff, and we went to a more increased volunteer pay, and a director and an assistant director. So that was one of the driving forces, but overall, salaries as a whole decreased from 2017 to 2018 to the budget in 2019.
You're saying like our total expenditure on salaries?
Total
decreased.
expenditure on salaries alone.
Individual salaries didn't decrease?
No, individual salaries went up, but our total expenditures on salaries decreased. Right now, we are projecting for the general fund an increase from $1,076,814 to $1,171,792, which represents an 8.8% increase. The library fund from $165,508 to $176,152, which is a 6.4% increase. The Port Authority of $41,398.18 to $42,025, which represents a 1.5% increase. And then we levy separately for the 2013 A Street project, and we take a look at that every year to ensure and try to keep our levy the same on that. And that by doing, or in order to do that, we need to project the payments that are coming in for the assessments. Per law, since we bonded, we have to use the assessments to make the payment. So we try to smooth that out so we don't have one high year versus a low year, and we go from there. So that has been for the last 3 years now, $361,631. So overall, the pay 2018 is $1,645,351, and right now, our pay 2019, which would be our budget for 2019, is $1,751,600, which represents what we're asking for in the first resolution, a 6.5% increase for us to work off of. Now, again, that is where we can only go down, we cannot go up from the 6.5%.
And all of these numbers are online. Just go to our city website, government, agendas, and minutes, and all of these numbers are there. Chad, I do have one question. How often and under what circumstances will we be able to discuss, share with you where we think as council members we could adjust, make changes?
First of all, if you have anything, just bring it to me and we can certainly work on it. But I would say we should probably have a standing item on every agenda up until December. So October and November, have just a discussion period if there's any, and we can maybe pull the top level page, every one of those, and say, here's where we're at now.
I think that'd be a good strategy.
Yeah, and we'll maybe highlight the material changes in that every time it comes forward. So we'll be working, like I said, starting tomorrow with department head staff to identify revenue opportunities and expense savings opportunities, and we'll continue to pluck away at it.
Okay, a motion is requested approving the resolution setting the 2019 budget levy and setting the dates and times for the required truth and taxation hearing.
I'll move.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
I'd like to discuss a little bit. I just wanna go over, so how this is all gonna come down a little bit. So, we're gonna, if we have any ideas about how to, we can't go up in this thing, we can only go down. If we have any ideas how to go down, we can bring them forward and discuss them. And the health insurance is something that we really don't have any control over, as I understand it. And that went up a significant amount, almost 30%.
I mean, you do have control over it if you want to raise premiums or take a higher deductible plan.
Okay.
And, you know, part of our discussion was, you know, if we're going to do that, we should start having that discussion now, either for, I would recommend for 2020, so families have the chance to, I mean, because it could be a significant impact to
Right.
personal finances.
I think we talked
Go
about
from
this
there.
last month, and we said
Yep.
we're probably gonna stay with it is, but just trying to outline that probably the bulk of this, there's a significant increase in this budget coming straight from the health plans, which we basically don't have a whole lot to
Not
control
for the,
on.
well, correct.
If we stay with if everybody
Exactly.
stays with
If
the
we
same
stay-
plan and.
Stay with the plan and go about it that way, right? But Craig, too, this could also, instead of just going down, you know, there may be other things you want in here that maybe you thought of that we didn't put in before, that we should now, and then we just have to look for cuts in other areas, so not just cost savings. If there's anything that people think that, hey, by the way, we didn't consider this, let's consider that now.
Or ways to increase revenue. too.
Right, absolutely.
Chad does have workshops throughout the year on our budget, and I think those are very helpful. We get a chance to see where we're at and where we might move to. Okay, further discussion? We do have a motion and a second to approve the 2019 preliminary budget. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. We're moving on to the Lawrence Boulevard Riprap Project, 2018.
I can kick this off. This is something we've been looking at. Tony, if you want to come forward. Last year, we kind of put this on the horizon to start talking about and moving forward. There's a section of riverfront north of the bridge to Slippery's that has not been riprapped or has not been riprapped correctly, and we're still experiencing some erosion there. So we have, Tony started looking at this late last year and more significantly here lately. We actually have a bid on hand, but there's several things we need to do yet in order for this to happen, but we didn't want to get too far in depth until we actually had a chance to put this in front of the council. So Tony, you want to kind of talk a little bit about what we're looking at?
Yeah, basically, if you come down river from Slippery's, there's a section of the river that's been riprapped already by the owner, which is great. And then we want to continue that down about 220 feet. And then we run into another section that's riprapped. So then we would skip that possibly and then jump to the smaller section is kind of a knoll that sticks out, and that's kind of unprotected too. And I know, like Craig mentioned earlier, it's not like we're having landslides into the river, but it's more of a long-term approach. When the river gets up to, 9, 10, 11 feet, you're in the exposed, unprotected soil. We have had to stabilize the bank down at the intersection of Arch and Lawrence. That was a few years ago. We had to go in, hire a contractor to put dirt in there, seed it down, and that was kind of a temporary fix at the time. And then we talked about getting some riprap on that. So that would be in this section. That's kind of where this came from. When you look at the riverbank from the bridge up, it's in the city right away. Staff and Chad and I and staff feel that we have an obligation to protect the road right away. Any damage that could happen to the road might be 20 years from now, who knows? But we just feel if we leave it, it's not in our best interest to leave it undone. So, like I said, some of it's been done already. How well it's been done, I'm gonna have to reevaluate that after we get going. We might move this project, this way 50 feet, downriver 50 feet. But basically, this is for $20,000 to get the quantity that we're looking to get close to having everything done from the bridge up. And I think that's about all I got. There are some, but the things that we're gonna run into is if they have stairs that are already built, they're in the city right away. They might not have a permit that's already obtained through City Hall, which they're supposed to have a permit to do any improvements down there. So what I wanna do before I go through all the work is get approval to even go ahead with the project. If it's okayed here, then we'll start the work and start working on it. If not, then we'll pack up and we won't spend any more staff time on it.
Yeah, we wanna send letters to those property owners
Mhm.
and like Tony, like we put in here, some aren't aware that that is within city right away. Granted, they have, I think it's called fee title, but the city has overarching right of way to be able to protect the city assets, so, we wanna work with each of those individual owners, and if they have a permit, good. If they don't, we'll go about getting them approved through there, so.
And that's where this, agreement comes into place with, the improvement, Lawrence Boulevard improvement policy.
Right, yep.
And that was originally drafted in 2005. And a lot of homeowners down there had already signed a water line agreement with the city back in 2005 also, when they were allowed to put, water under the roadway, so, majority of the people down there are aware of what they can and cannot do. It's mainly the people that have purchased in the last
Since then.
3-4 years. So I just wanna bring that up.
One thing that sparked that is I was down there doing some measuring and they're like, what are you doing? We're kind of measuring for a future project, kind of looking at quantities and, well, this is my area. Well, it is technically, but I mean, it's right away in the city to the water line. So that's kind of why I'd want to start from scratch. There's been, I think, 2 or 3 people in the area that were looking at it that have bought one in the last year and then maybe in a couple of years prior to that, so I'd rather get ahead of that and let everybody know what we're doing and how it works, and if they want to get a permit or something and we can work together on, I think that'd be a route to go.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Someone over here?
Yeah. Somebody approved it, I heard it, I didn't know who it was.
Well, I second him, I thought Jeff did it the same.
I think he was asking, someone was gonna say something, discussion, right?
Yeah, right.
Sorry,
No, that's okay.
forgive me.
Okay, resolutions direct, motions, take action, so it looks to me like a resolution to, direct Tony and city staff to move ahead on this, riprap project.
Jeff, did you make the motion?
Second.
You made the
I made
motion.
the motion.
That's what I have written down, okay.
For this, John, you did?
Resolution to direct,
Yeah, resolution to direct, yeah.
resolution to direct.
Okay, I'm sorry.
City staff to move forward.
Really quick.
Kind of mumbled it, I'm sorry.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. Well, Corbin Cook brought his mom and dad with us this evening for the next, general business.
I can handle it. If there's any questions from them, you will certainly ask,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, Chad, normally, if a council member has a question for you, they'll just ask you to come up. Okay, again, Chad, you wanna give us the background on this?
Mr. and Mrs. Cook have purchased the first, or in the process of building a house in the first lot as you go into Eagles Basin. They are interested in adding a detached garage.
Yep.
However, the stipulations within the Eagle Basin do not allow that in that area. So what they have done is contacted the property owner behind them and worked out a deal to purchase some land from that property owner. And in order for this to move forward, it needs to become a plat. So what we have done is, you'll see the memo and the plat from both Christy Clark and Brian Malm. Brian has reviewed this and doesn't have any issues. This was discussed at the street commission meeting and there was no issues. What this basically does is creates the plot. It's called the Cook plot, so you'll go down in history with your name on a plot. So, but what it does is it takes that piece of land behind the property in Eagle Basin and pulls it into, and as I understand it, it'll be two separate parcels.
Well, I know they were gonna, I thought the city said they wanted to connect them.
We can do that. That's a simple process, but I think right now it'll exist as two separate
That's fine if it's just two.
parcels but at the end of the day, Mr. Malm reviewed it and thought that if we were to do anything further that way, a street would probably be required on the back side of the new, basically plotted land that the Cooks would own. So, he didn't feel any risk there and that we were set up, going forward to be able to accommodate that. So, there was no concerns from, Brian as the engineer. There was no concerns from the street commission, and thus is why it's here for the approval here tonight with the council.
So with that said, I'll make a motion to approve it.
Thank you, Dean.
I'll second.
Brian seconds. Further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Marvin, your mom and dad did a nice job. No other general business?
We handle those other two items in
Right.
the updates.
Donations tonight, I'll read the resolution, or the donations are to the library, $365 from RJAC's Friday night concert dessert sales. Thank you, RJAC, that's collaboration. Wabasha Kellogg Chamber CVB Septoberfest, $500 from Burkhart Raymer, Post 4086, and City Christmas Decoration Fund, $500 from Burkhart Raymer, VFW Post 4086. Motion to accept donations?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed unanimously. Go back and see what we've got. Financials were mailed to the council. Any announcements? Adjournment. Motion to adjourn, we are adjourned.